Friday's prayers in Sudan ended with calls for more protests demanding the resignation of President Omar al-Bashir, and the calls were heeded in several cities. Security forces again fired tear gas at some protesters. Even hospitals have been in the firing line. In what Amnesty International is describing as an outrageous violation of international law, security forces stormed a hospital on Wednesday. They were looking for protesters injured during anti-government demonstrations in Omdurman, Sudan's second-largest city. Bullets and tear gas were fired at patients and doctors. They've walked out on strike in protest. The Sudanese government says it's investigating what happened.
The security forces actually followed the protesters inside the hospital and attacked them. And also some of them were injured, and they used tear gas and live ammunition. And a horrible situation. And I think even in conflict situation, attacking hospitals that's considered a war crime.
Wednesday's protests in Omdurman were reported to be the largest in 3 weeks of demonstrations against the 29-year rule of President Omar al-Bashir. Police and security forces have responded with force. At least 3 people were killed on Wednesday. Rights groups say the number killed since protests began is at least 40. The government says the total is 22. President Omar al-Bashir seems defiant as his party threatens to use force against those protesting his rule.
Give us a week. Let's see who would dare challenge. Just 1 week. We don't want people without permits protesting. Those protesting, and especially those who are armed, we will cut off their heads.
The protesters accuse President Bashir of mismanaging the economy, ignoring corruption, and causing the world's second highest inflation rate. The current wave of anti-government protests is regarded as the biggest challenge to President Bashir since he came to power in 1989. Some opposition groups have lent their support to those demanding his step down. Calls for his resignation continue, with more protests planned into the week, all triggered by the country's economic crisis. Queues for bread are common. The price of a loaf tripled recently. The ruling party says it wants Bashir, who remains wanted by the International Criminal Court for war crimes, to be re-elected next year. Protesters seem determined to prevent that, with the strongest challenge yet to his leadership. Hiba, Al Jazeera, Khartoum.